Good morning, my name's Chiquita Searle and I'm the General Manager of the League of Extraordinary Women. We are really honoured to have one of our fabulous members here, Maylynn, who was the founder along with her husband of Belle Miette, and she's here to share her entrepreneurial adventures with us. So welcome, Maylynn. Thank you so much for being here this morning. So Maylynn, tell us about Belle Miette. I've said that correctly, Belle Miette. Tell us about where you got the idea from, what sparked this entrepreneurial adventure of yours.
Well, I'd always wanted to start my own business, and I'd always loved French patisserie, and French patisserie was something that I did as a hobby, and it took me a little while to realise that I could actually make this idea about my career being something that I actually loved. And then once I was comfortable with the fact that I was allowed to do something fun for work, the idea came quite clearly to me. I was actually travelling to Paris every year just for my self-interest to do dessert research. This is all just personal interest. And the thing that I really noticed there was, food and patisserie is really male-dominated in France. And in patisserie, I suppose, because all of the top patissiers are male, it makes sense that their businesses are named after themselves and that aesthetically they look quite male. But I noticed that the customer base, I think, is more female. And I was just thinking it would make sense to me that you had this beautiful product that tasted really nice that was in a more feminine and pretty environment. And they do have those environments in France, but those places, the places that I wanted to sit and spend time in, didn't have the quality of product. And so it made sense to me. It was obvious, let's do an irresistibly delicious, high quality product and match it with this aesthetic that you couldn't get.
So how many locations do you have now, and how long after launching the first one did you open the second?
So we have 4 now. They're all in Melbourne. Mm-hmm. We opened our first one in January 2011. The second one opened in August. So it was fairly quick.
Very quick growth.
Yeah.
So tell us, where are the locations?
So we've got 2 in the city. We've got one in Hardware Lane and one at the top of Collins Street. Mm-hmm. We've got one in Chadstone and then one in Richmond, which is where our kitchen and office is based.
Oh, and have you got plans to expand outside of Melbourne, or?
That's something we'd like to do. Logistically, it's a little bit difficult because we do have a fresh product, and so that's why it's made sense for us to stay in Melbourne. But we are moving into some products that last a bit longer, and so it's on the cards.
So which store is your biggest seller?
It's funny, it actually fluctuates quite a bit. So Hardware Lane always was, but Chadstone's been quite busy for us as well.
Oh, Chadstone, very busy. So what was the biggest fear you had before launching? I'm sure that you had various things going through your head. Was there anything that stuck out? You just thought, oh my God.
I think, the fear of testing something unknown. I didn't actually have, it was just like a personal passion in making French patisserie, but I'd never worked in hospitality before.
I was just going to say, what's your background? You're not a bake by trade or
no, not at all. Not at all.
What's the
a patissier or pastry chef.
Oh, pastry chef. Okay. I should have been watching my
chef.
Chef.
So I was all self-trained. I did actually go to study professionally in Paris, but I had no experience. I mean, I never worked in a cafe. So jumping into something when, I always feel like this. I tiled my mum's bathroom, and you need experience in doing the thing that you do. So that was the frightening thing, was thinking we knew what we were doing and not necessarily knowing whether we actually did until we were right in it.
So in the first year, or I guess even past that, when was the tipping point? How far into it did you go, oh, this is actually going to work? And what was that point for you? What had happened?
Actually, almost immediately after we opened the doors. And we were just very lucky. Like we entered a business at a time when macaron actually was starting to get a bit of media. And I think we had a very good quality product, and we really came through with a different looking aesthetic for Melbourne, and people were interested in it. And we were just lucky we got busy instantly. Because we were scared of what we were doing, we did a soft launch. Mm-hmm. I barely told any family. Like, my brother knew that we were opening, but none of my cousins or anyone knew. We had people who worked in media saying, do you want us to help? No, don't tell anyone. Please don't tell anyone. And it was within a week we had queues out the door.
Oh,
so
wow.
we were lucky that I think it was that we produced a nice product.
So how many locations do you have now?
We've got 4 now.
4 locations. And how long into the business did the second one open?
So the first one in January and the second one in August.
Oh, that's fairly quick growth.
Yeah.
So where are they all?
So we've got one in Hardware Lane in the city. We've got another one at the top end of Collins Street, Chadstone and Richmond, which is where our kitchen is.
So for you going from outside of industry into a brand new industry, what was the biggest challenge for you there?
Well, we did something really silly to begin with, which is that I think, you know, we were kind of convinced that we were going to go bankrupt instantly. We didn't employ anyone. So that would be my first bit of advice, is actually employ people to help you, because we were doing very silly things early on. I'd sometimes be baking until 4 in the morning, then I'd get up at 6 and start preparing to go and open the store. I mean, and I did have an incredible amount of energy then, but I think we were running on adrenaline, and there's only so long you can do that for.
Before you crash.
But we did do a lot of sleepless nights, and I mean really sleepless nights.
And how are you faring now?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a 2-year-old now, so now I'm sleepless for a different reason.
And so if you had to choose a business owner or entrepreneur who you admire the most, who would it be and why?
That's funny. Like I don't really think about business owners or entrepreneurs that I think about that I admire. Just it's not that if I wasn't in the room with Steve Jobs that I wouldn't be completely in awe. It's just that's not, I'm very busy with work. It's not like how I like to spend my personal time. So the people that excite me and inspire me are creatives. I studied film when I was at uni, so I could definitely name a lot of film directors that impress me: Louis Buñuel, David Cronenberg, people that have a really strong sense of their personal identity, people that have a strong story and can be funny at the same time. That's something that inspires me.
So are you the creative brains behind all the product that comes out?
Yes and no. Like I'd like to think so. When we started, I definitely do all of the recipes, and I have strong input into what our product packaging design and stores look like. But I'm not a graphic designer. I don't do interior design, and we have a brilliant designer who works with us. So I wouldn't want to take credit for all of his brilliant work.
So what's the big plans for La Belle Miette?
Yeah, well, we're expanding into new product lines at the moment, so that's quite exciting.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we're actually, we have already launched the beginnings of a chocolate range, and that's just going
I have seen online.
Bigger. So we do dragées, which are panned products. That's chocolate-coated products. But we are doing more chocolate products, and that's really just coming from my love of chocolate and wanting to expand the range and do more exciting things. And again, it's looking at that, bringing in flavours and aesthetics that I think appeal more to someone with more traditional antique tastes and more feminine looks.
So your husband works in the business with you full
He
time?
does, yeah.
So how do you manage the personal and professional of that relationship and the different dynamics that go into both?
Yeah, well, I think,
And still remain happily married?
Well, we're very lucky because I think you know that you've got someone who really strongly supports you there. I imagine, I've heard some people say they couldn't think of anything worse, but actually it's fantastic. That was part of the idea between wanting to have my own business, was that I knew that I wanted to have a family, but I also knew that I wanted to earn money. And this way, we live very close to work. I'm my own boss. I'm very busy, but I can go home and I can see my son for lunch, and you know, I can spend time with him. He can come to work with us. It's it's actually just been something that's been really good for us, and let's hope it keeps working. We'll see.
Have you made any really major mistakes along the way?
Yeah, well, the one I told you about before, which was not employing people to start with, that was very silly, because I think we could have burnt out, you know, before we'd even had an opportunity to do anything. And the other thing was not being able to keep up with demand at that time as well. So what was happening was we were selling out each day, and that happened for quite some time because we actually didn't have the capacity to make more product, or the energy or the time to do it, until we employed people. We really started with low capital. The whole idea behind our business was a small patisserie for small patisserie. If you've been into any of our stores, they're tiny. They have really beautiful fittings and fixtures, but if you put that on a kind of per square metre basis, you know, it was something little. And when we started, we actually shared a kitchen that was just miniature and just not the kind of place you should make macaron in. And that was a silly thing as well, because we were constrained by time, staff and space and equipment. So that's actually something where my husband's been brilliant at, is just helping us expand in that way, and you shouldn't be afraid to think bigger than you're going to be, because you'll never be able to, you can always try to grow into something, but when you get too big for a small space, it's not good for anyone.
So you've got the online part of the business now as well. You've launched that. How long ago did you launch your website and selling online?
We actually only started selling online very recently. Part of the problem is we have a fragile product.
Yes.
And so it's quite complicated, because we can send it by courier in just a very small, close to Melbourne location. Now we're doing some other products that we can send further, and that was a challenge in us kind of getting that.
And is it working? Are people buying online?
It is, yeah. I think people love buying online. Doesn't matter what it is. Like even a fresh product that they might actually need to even come and collect.
Well, it's convenience these days. Everyone wants to buy online. No one wants to actually leave the house.
Yeah.
I do understand. Well, thank you so much, Maylynn, for being here today. It's just been a delight to hear about your entrepreneurial adventure, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.